Hello and welcome to another episode of Who's Coming to Dinner, the podcast that takes a podcaster and tasks them with throwing me a dinner party. This week, I've got Alex. So initially, I was going to present you as, well, by your own definition, Alex, professional podcast guest and start of my recent Fallout episode. But as of literally 3 days ago, you are now a co-host on an already formidable team, but you've made them formidabler. I think if that's not a real word, but we'll go with that. So firstly, hi, Alex. And talk to us about your new role.
I don't know if I'd say I've made it more formidable, but it's been in the background for about 3 or 4 weeks, but I'm now officially part of Game Club Pod with Joey, Tim and Slade.
Congratulations on that. I mean, it's no secret that I love that podcast and the two blokes. So, are you looking forward to challenging the others with your views on games?
But I think I've had plenty of trial runs with them because I think I've probably had 5 or 6 guest episodes with them, one of which I don't think is released yet, so I won't say anything. But started with... What was the first? I think the first episode I did with them, it was just me and Slade. And we did Metal Hellsinger because we're both big sort of rock and metal fans. And then they kept bringing me back. Every time one of them doesn't want to play a game or something comes up, it's like, well, ask Alex.
And do you tend to align more with Slade or Joey or Tim? Or would you say it's not any of them?
I think the British sensibility comes into it a lot of the time. Like with the Hellsinger episode, me and Slade both thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know how Joey or Tim would have felt if they'd played it, but up until now, it tends to have been games that Slade has had particular issue with, and he's sort of gone, to his credit, he said, I can't do a good episode on this, I'm going to bow out of it. So that was the case with Pizza Tower and was it Hotline Miami? Slade was originally meant to be on both of them, but the games just didn't work for him, so he just went, you know what, nah, I'm out.
I see that line of thought because I was thinking the same for movie reviewers. There are certain films I just know I'm not going to like, and there are certain games I know they're great games. I can't remember if it was yourself or it might have been Joey I was saying, but like, the real-time strategy games or even the Souls-like games. But the thing about those, I really like those, the appeal of them. I really want to be a fan of them, but they destroy me within the first 5 minutes. So I know there really isn't a point of me playing. And I know at time of recording, Slade's been given actually like a little diary on Twitter, hasn't he, of him trying to get back into, is it Dark Souls? No, Elden Ring. I think is it not Dark Souls? He tried to get into Elden Ring and just couldn't. That's right, yeah.
So he went back to his old love of Dark Souls 3. But no, I'm 100% with you. Dark Souls and all the Souls-like games, can't do them. Yeah. For love nor money, I cannot do them. Joey, bless his heart, he's constantly going, "Oh, they're really good games. You just need to keep trying. You'll get better. You'll get better." No, I've tried, and no, but RTS is 100% my bag.
Well, that's it. Well, gaming is my safe space and shouldn't be making me angrier than it did before I started playing. So.
There's only so many times you can die before you think, I'll go play something I'm good at. I'll go play Monster Hunter.
The funny thing is, back in the day, games were rock hard anyway. They were platformers or simple looking games, but I think they were designed so you couldn't complete them. Because often they didn't have enough memory to complete the game on the cassette tape.
Well, yeah, that's it as well. And you got to think, you pick up a copy of Sonic, for example. You know that game's only going to be, you've only got the memory for like an hour-long game or somewhere in that ballpark because cartridges did not have the memory. But so I think they made them intentionally a lot harder to try and pad it out, artificially pad the game out a bit.
Yeah.
But they went hard to the point you thought, chuck the Sega Genesis across the house.
Well, that's it. Sonic is another one that, to me, I just don't know how people play that. I mean, and when you see someone who plays it well, I'm almost like I could be watching someone playing an expert game of Elden Ring as well, to me.
Oh, yeah, God. Some of the speedrunners you see, hurts my head thinking about it.
Well, look, I think it's really good news to have you on there. So I look forward to hearing your episodes.
I've got a block because obviously, as I think Slade or Joey said in the past, planning out the games ahead of time, and I've got a block of about 3 months worth of releases where I'm on them straight if the schedule doesn't change. But that's not for 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah, I do envy how forward planning. Well, I'm going to say you guys are now because you
yeah. I was thoroughly surprised when they invited me in and they put me on the Google Doc and the Notion page and all of that. You would not believe how organized they actually are, given how sporadic and chaotic they are. There's actually a good word there,
how chaotic they are.
Yeah. They are surprisingly well organized.
I'm in a really weird position. So I was really well organized and I had a little break and now I'm back. Now, I think I was saying to you a couple of nights ago, I'm in a position where I've got the next 2 episodes done. I've got the last 2 episodes, I think, of August pretty much done. But it's the ones in between I haven't done. So I don't know how I've got in that position at the moment. But yeah, I'll work it out.
Your midterm games are failing a bit, but in 2 months you'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, look, so that's the exciting news out the way. And I'm glad that I've kind of got you just a couple of days after the announcement. So it's like I've almost got the exclusive interview here.
Yeah, you've got me before they've got me.
Yeah, there you go. So what we're going to have, before we get into the main thrust of this episode, let's have an advert from some friends of ours. And we are going to hear from the wonderful Tim and Joey from Two Blokes from Blighty.
Great guys.
Hi, I'm a bloke.
And I'm another bloke.
And we are from Blighty. My name is Joey. I'm joined by my co-host Tim.
Hi.
Where every single Wednesday we come at you through the Game Club podcast feed with our show, Two Blokes from Blighty. I tried to think about the kind of topics that we talk about on Two Blokes from Blighty. Tim, what's your favourite topic that we've ever spoken about across our 3 seasons?
The fiasco of me shaving my head.
Mine is the fiasco of you shitting on a toilet seat. If those sound like things you want to hear about, join us every Wednesday by searching Game Club Pod in your podcast provider.
Just makes my life sound a little bit tragic, really, doesn't it?
Would you listen to that show, Tim?
I would.
I don't think I would.
No.
Hi, I'm Slade from the Game Club podcast, and you're listening to Casting Views, a member of the PodPack Collective.
Right, so we are back. So, dinner party. I'm guest number 1. So, as I keep saying to people, you can't get rid of me that quickly. So I'm already through the door, got my feet up. You've given me a tube of Pringles or whatever just to keep me going for now.
You've actually been around for about 4 hours.
Yeah. I've made myself really comfortable watching the TV. So let's have course number 1, followed by who celebrity or person of note number 1 is going to be.
So I've gone a little step ahead, and I've also made drinks because
that's perfect.
I like drinks, but
I won't say no.
So we've got a lovely starter of a roasted red pepper soup with some nice crispy bread. Now it's crazy how palates change. I used to hate peppers when I was younger. I would not eat a pepper. Now I can eat the things raw. I'll sit and eat a pepper like an apple. They're that good. But yeah, so that's what we've got as a starter with a cocktail. Now, for this cocktail, there's a brewery I say a brewery, it's a liquor maker in Manchester called Witch Kings. They have this very, very nice rum liqueur. It's only 20%, but it's strawberry, chili, and lemon, which is a fantastic combination. And they've suggested to mix that with spiced rum, lemon juice, and simple syrup to make a blazing wreck, which, to me, sounds bloody lovely.
We're getting the meal started off with a kick then, right?
Oh, yeah, it's all alcohol. No, but I feel like you don't want anything too heavy for a starter. You don't want loads of bread and stuff like that. You want something light just to get you going. I think soup fills that pretty well.
I like the idea of the soup, especially red pepper soup. I was going to say, I do like with soup a big chunky bit of bread.
Oh, yeah, you've got to have a chunky bit of bread.
Proper lathered in, or loaded with butter.
Yeah.
Just dip it in 100%. The soup. It's nothing tastier than
nice bit of tiger bread. And for our first guest, I suppose, I've tried to get guests for sort of 3 things that are big parts of my life, things I really enjoy. So we're going to start with D&D. I'm a big D&D fan. I don't get to play it nearly as much as I want to, but Dan, are you aware of Critical Role?
I am. I've not really taken in too much of the work, but I was made aware of them through a guy at my last place I worked with who was just fanatical about them. Yeah.
So now everyone who knows Critical Role's probably sat here thinking, oh, he's going to say Matt Mercer, the DM, because he's a very charismatic and very interesting man. But there is a member of the cast I don't want to say prefer, but I would invite ahead of that, and it's Taliesin Jaffe. He plays, again, I don't know how much you know about Critical Role, but he plays Percival in Campaign 1, and then he's Mollymock and Caduceus in Campaign 2, and the current campaign he plays Ashton. Now, this guy he's been playing D&D since the original days, as far as I'm aware. He was a child actor. And he's come from a big family full of actors, directors, and all that kind of stuff. So he's grown up in that atmosphere. Reading up on him a bit, I didn't realise he didn't know he could quit acting until his dad said, you know you can quit. So he quit
Really?
at one point, which I think it says a lot about the nature of child acting and child like pageants and stuff like that. I think it says a lot that they're not made aware that they can actually stop this. Like you and I know, if you get sick of your job, we can just go, nah, I'm out. So for people who aren't aware of Critical Role, he is Basil Hawkins in the One Piece anime. He plays He plays Britain in Hetalia. He's High Lord Darian Morgan from World of Warcraft. He's Edge in Final Fantasy. Uldric in... He's all over the shop. He's everywhere. Thurliot? How the hell do you say that? Thurles in Horizon Forbidden West. I just think with his history that he's had and sort of being a child actor and then being a bit of like a punk goth kind of person through his formative years and things like that, I think he'd be really interesting to just sit and talk to.
So on this subject then, so have you always been into D&D?
I was aware of it when I was younger, but I'd never no further than this is a board game that I'd heard of. When I went to university, because let's face it, that's where everyone starts, there was a friend on my course and he was saying to me, oh, I'm going to be starting a D&D campaign. Do you want to join? And I was like, what is? And he explained it to me and I was like, that sounds like it's right up my alley. So that was, 15 years ago now. That was a long time ago. Played a lot of it through university, and then obviously when you leave university, things get very different. You have to start working. You don't have the same schedules as all your friends. Kind of fell off with it. I have recently got into a campaign online with random people, which is an interesting situation because it's so hard. Even when you work in a regular schedule, it's hard to find groups for things like that.
Yeah.
Just look at how long it took to schedule the Among Us episode on Game Club. Like, trying to get more than 2 people's schedules lining up is near impossible, but I've managed to find a group where I can. So now I'm getting back into it.
See, D&D is something, again, I feel like would be right up my street, but I never have done. And it's sort of when I was looking at it about 10 years ago, it kind of, again, use the word intimidating. I don't mean it literally in that sense, but it's like, it feels like almost where do you start? It feels like if you haven't kind of not grown up with it, but haven't had that period of introduction and that group to play with, it's like, where do you start?
The problem in the problem trying to find groups in D&D now is there are so many people who want to play it, but D&D requires a dungeon master, which is a lot of work, and there are not a lot of people that want to do that. So you've got this imbalance of players to do, because you only need one DM to every 5 players, but give or take. But in the community, it looks like it's closer to one DM to every 400 players. But I've not discussed it with the guys yet, but I do want to try and do some D&D content through Game Club. So I'll let you know.
Well, you did something for their 12 Pods of Christmas, didn't you?
I did it was meant to be a one-shot, one-part game, but as with always the case with D&D, it never got. You try and play a game in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I dare you. It's impossible.
And I featured in it, and I was less lovely in that version or the incarnation, wasn't I? But you did, yeah. I mean, that's a fantastic thing you did, and I saw you do the cards. You like a character sheet or whatever they're called.
I thought it would be very funny for anyone who hasn't heard it to get you, Josh, and Jatsunami to be the big bads at the end of the game, and I got each of you to record a sort of evil villain dialogue, and it was great.
Yeah,
they
fun.
Tim Slade and Joey had no idea, and they were wetting themselves when they heard it.
And like I said, I love it when somebody has a great passion for something that I don't really have too much knowledge on, because it's like you said, it's about trying to, you want to experience other things. Now I know it's probably too late for me. Well, in this, yeah, it sounds dramatic again. No, but in the sense of I know a little time, like you said, it's all about time, but also sort of I don't necessarily know. I'd want to do it. I wouldn't want to do it online. I'd want to do it with people around me so I could get used to it
in person at a table.
Yeah, basically get into it. So no, it's great living through other people, but I would be one already. You've only been a member of them for 3 days officially, but I'd be one for you to mix it up with them and get some D&D content through there.
Yeah, the only problem is everyone's a bit too spread out for it to be in person. Cause I don't know where in the south you are, but it's too far away from here.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And yeah, just going back to, so obviously great guest, especially for your interest, but also, yeah, good start. I think I remember Tim and Joey, they started with Soups, I think.
Yeah, I think one of them had a pea and ham, I think.
All I remember about that episode was, I think I was so close to falling out with Joey over a sweet potato, I believe it was. So.
I mean, if you're going to fall out with someone for anything, a sweet potato's up there.
Yeah. So I'm getting a bit nervous about this. The main course always feels like it's the one that ruffles feathers. So let's move on to the main course.
I'm a big fan of pasta. I love a good pasta dish. One of my favourites that I'm actually cooking tonight for dinner, because preparing for this episode made me think I want that now, is chicken pesto pasta.
Very
green
nice.
Pesto specifically. You cook up some chicken with garlic and herbs, chuck some creme fraiche, green pesto, chicken stock in there, peas, mushrooms, job's a good one. Chuck it on some good, thick, chunky pasta. Serve it with a bit of garlic bread. Good to go.
Just a quick question then that's hit me though. Do you do a lot of cooking then? Do you, in your household?
I do the majority of the cooking in my house.
Is it something you enjoy as well?
Yeah. Not to the point Slade does, because Slade seems to be almost fanatic about cooking, but I've seen the stuff he makes and it looks very, very good. I do enjoy cooking. It's just a lot of the time it's a case of time.
Yeah.
There's not always the time in the day to make, a 3-course meal, full chicken dinner or anything like that. But something like this, you can chuck it together in half an hour, all in one pan. And because I said drinks are going with everything, we've got a margarita.
Okay, yeah, nice one.
For anyone who doesn't know what a margarita is, it's tequila, lime juice, and triple sec.
That's going to get the evening really going, isn't it?
That's the idea. Get everyone drunk and then they don't realise anything's happened.
It's really funny that you said chicken pesto pasta, because that's something that my wife has recently started doing, because we'll often do, we'll get a big chicken, one day we'll do the roast, then you got leftovers, so I might have it in a sandwich the next day for work, or we'll have a stir fry. And then, she recently said, why don't we just chuck it in pasta with pesto as well, because we like pesto too. And it's just a classic. Like you said, it can be as simple. It doesn't have to be overly complicated, does it? But it's a tasty, comforting dish.
At its base, it's a white-based pasta sauce. I know a lot of people cook that with white wine and spend hours doing it, but just chuck it all in a pan, put the lid on, leave it for half an hour, job's a good one. All the fancy stuff that people do with it is nice. It's not necessary, but it is nice.
Okay, so who is joining us?
This one, I think, is a duplication of what Joey or Tim said, but I can't remember if they said it as a special mention rather than their actual guest. Frontman of Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson.
Oh, I can't remember now. I'm
I
struggling. to
can't remember.
which-
I was going to listen to it, but I was too busy listening to Slade talk about barbecue. So that this fulfills the music part of my life. This is the first time today I've not been listening to music as while I'm sort of talking to you. It's if I'm at work, I've got music. If I'm traveling, I've got music. If I'm playing games, I've probably got music on. Old Brucey here has had a very long and very full life of everything. So obviously, we know him as the frontman of Iron Maiden. He was in a band before that I didn't realise called Samson. From 79 to 81. Didn't know that. I'm going to have to listen to them. Apparently, they're a sort of prog rocky band. But yeah, I think he'd be very interesting to sit and talk to because he's just done so much in his life. He's a pilot. He's done fence. He's spent years training as a fencer. He's got a doctorate in philosophy. Fun thing that I didn't realise and didn't know. He's an honorary citizen of Sarajevo. I think I'm saying that right, in Bosnia. The reason he became an honorary citizen is he went there to do a gig. The city got sieged, and he continued playing while the siege was happening.
Really?
And there is nothing more metal than continuing to play your music while the city's being attacked. But obviously, like as a lot of people know, he's obviously a pilot. He's an RAF pilot. He's done so much in his life, and I think the amount of stories he would have would fill the night.
And this is why, I think in that same episode as well, we had Ozzy Osbourne come up in discussion as well. And that's exactly it. He is someone who's going to have no end of stories, right? And it's interesting what you're saying when you were reading everything off, like the pilot, the doctorate, etc., that, we look at our celebs. I'm not saying necessarily you, but people, we look at the celebs and think they're just people there to entertain us. That's all they do. Their life just revolves around singing or acting.
It's like they're a one-trick pony.
Yeah, you don't see the layers behind them, and how many of them, there's so many that know how to fly, whether it's commercial planes or, light aircraft, all the doctorates, the degrees, the skills that they do outside of it. It's amazing when you start discovering that, isn't it?
Yeah, because like you say, you just, you look at your favourite musician, whoever that might be, and you go, oh yeah, they're really good on the guitar, they're really good at singing, they've got some keyboard skills, and then you look into it a bit and you suddenly there going, well, hang on a minute, he's a world-class chess champion or something like that, and you go, how does that tie up to being a heavy metal singer?
Yeah.
It's just, but I think part of it, I think, not to say privilege, because it's not privilege, they work hard for it, they've got the money to do that kind of thing. And I think if stuff like that was more accessible, you'd have a lot more people who can fly planes or do this or that or the other. But yeah, it's crazy when you start actually looking into famous people's lives and you just realise that there's a lot more to them than what you see on the screen or on a CD or a vinyl. Apparently both his sons played metal bands as well.
I did. Well, this was what I was going to ask you. So I'm not going to delve too much because at some point I'll get you on for the Mind Wipe episode as well. So music, you said earlier, is a very important part or an integral part of your life, your daily life.
Yeah.
Is it metal that you're primarily into?
It used to be. So when obviously as kids you listen to whatever music your parents are listening to, and at the time my mum was listening to Bon Jovi, Meatloaf, and Dido.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, a strange combination of bands. But when I went to was it when so I moved to a new school partway through, I think it was partway through secondary school, and I made friends with someone. And he's like, "Oh, what music do you listen to?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really have a taste in music." And he's like, "What do you listen to?" And I said, like, "Oh, I know Meatloaf and I know AC/DC and bits like that." He came in the next day and he gave me two. I hope you've not got any younger listeners because this isn't going to make sense. CDs. Burnt CDs. And on one of them was written AC/DC. Is it Back in Black, AC/DC's album?
Yeah.
That had Thunderstruck on it. And then Iron Maiden's Best of the Beast. AC/DC was not for me. so much. But that Iron Maiden disc, I've probably destroyed it listening to it that many times.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And that sort of cemented me into heavy metal. And obviously from there you go to, you've got your Linkin Park, Disturbed, all these kind of bands, the new metal, because that was the early 2000s when the new metal craze started. And then I went through a goth period through university where I started listening to a lot of darker stuff. And now I'm in my 30s and I still listen to all that stuff. But then I've also got, jazz, lo-fi, a lot of video game soundtracks and stuff like that. Because of how much I listen to music, if I was listening to one genre all the time, it would become very, very samey. So, but you kind of, not phases, but you go through periods of like, I'm really into my metal at the minute, so I'm going to keep listening to metal. And then you get to a point, it's like, oh, wait, no, I want to go and listen to my synthwave now. You do that for a bit, and then it's like, oh, jazz. Yeah, I feel jazzy.
I'm the same. I've got a couple of things I want to come back to. That one that made me particularly laugh when you were saying, but that's because of me. Yeah, I'm the same. I tend to like a wide variety of music, but it will be how I feel that particular moment when I want to put that record on. As to and I think that's fairly common. But new metal, you mentioned new metal and the early 2000s. That for me, I was never really into heavy metal, but new metal kind of appealed to me because it felt like that was the potential gateway to then sort of maybe start that experimenting with some of the older and the bigger bands, if you know what I mean.
New metal's the gateway drug into heavy metal, yeah.
Yeah. The thing that made me laugh was when you were saying that you listen to what your parents do, and that's absolutely true, but there is nothing more to hammer home how much older I am. When it started off really well, but then you mentioned Dido, and I was thinking, oh no, that's what I was listening to when I was kind of. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned, what do you say? It was Bon Jovi, Dido, and I can't remember. Meatloaf. Yeah, the records in my dad's collection were Beatles, Elvis, and so I just had to bring up that kind of made me cry a little inside. But
I mean, it's not that far apart. They were the 70s. Dido, Meatloaf, and all that was late 80s, I think. So you're not as old as you think you are.
but yeah, metal is a funny one, isn't it? Sometimes what is classed, I guess rock is another one, but what's classed as metal and what's classed as rock? Because sometimes you get those subgenres, don't you? Like soft rock, the soft metal, new metal.
It's rock and metal is a weird place where there's that many different sort of subcategories and then subcategories onto the subcategories, and you get some people who are, for lack of a better word, very much purists, and it's like, oh, unless you're listening to real heavy metal, you're not a metalhead, and it's like, shove it.
Yeah, the gatekeepers of music.
Gatekeeping is such a weird thing, especially for music, because it's like, as long as they're listening to something good, who cares if it's classed as prog metal or thrash or whatever you want to call it? It's good music. That's what matters.
And as long as people are listening to it, because that's the only way it continues, right?
I'm very much of the opinion that everyone in the world likes music, and if I ever meet someone who says they don't like music, I'm instantly not trusting them.
So if you're listening out there and you don't like music, let us know.
It's just because, you'll get people like, not to harp on him, but you'll get people like Slade who aren't really into movies. You'll get people who aren't really into games or like into books, for example. I've yet to meet someone who's not had a band that they like or a genre of music, even if it's things like, like classical Beethoven and Bach and stuff like that. So people have always got something musical that they like.
Yeah, and it's always, not limited solely to these examples, but it's the first song at a wedding, it's what was number one when you were born, it's all these things, it's all music that sometimes that mark a lot of events in people's lives, right? It's to go on the morbid side, but funerals, the amount of people that say, I can't listen to that song because that was the song at my mum, dad, grandfather's funeral, things like that. Music defines moments for the majority of people, for the majority of times.
Then you get, obviously, like you said, on the more morbid side, you get like your breakup music and stuff like that. It's
people make mixtapes. Well, I call it mixtapes, but I did make a mixtape. you burn a CD or whatever it is now. You know, people make a mix of songs for when they're in love. Like you said, you've got your breakups, or you've got your chill out music. You might not like everything, but everybody has to. Or
You
most
might
people
only
have that.
like one or two, but
Yeah.
everyone's got something.
Do you play any instruments?
No, I'm not terribly musically gifted. I did when I was in college, as everyone I'm sure did. I went through a phase of trying to learn an instrument. I tried to learn the bass because I didn't have the fingers for a guitar.
Yeah.
I've got quite big, shovelly hands, so I was
Yeah,
more suited to a bass. I would love to be able to learn an instrument, but I don't think it's in my wheelhouse.
You can sing with Bruce then, can't you?
Sing's a strong word, but yeah, I can butcher the songs.
Instruments, yeah. I wanted to learn an instrument when I was at school. I was told I couldn't learn the drums. Didn't want to do guitar, so I ended up playing the cornet.
That's
Random.
I was ready for. Oh yeah, I started learning the bass, or I learned keyboard. I wasn't expecting a cornet.
The cornet.
Do you still play it now?
Oh no, I haven't played it since, and I think it was it primary school? I can't remember. But I haven't played it for like 20 years at least.
So you've not got a cornet and some sheet music up in the attic that you're too embarrassed to get out.
I think it was loaned by the school at the time as well, so I don't think I ever had my own one. But and I dabbled with the keyboard a little bit, sort of piano. During the pandemic, where I wanted to do something creative, so before I settled on a podcast, I tried to do an instrument, and like you, I tried to learn guitar, but I've got quite chunky fingers, so that just didn't work. So I went to ukulele. So I got a ukulele, and
so you went smaller.
Yeah, weirdly, but less strings, right? So
4 strings, yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what would if you had the choice and you had the funding and the means, what would you learn?
I think it would have to be. If I had the talent, it would be the guitar. I think I would love to play the guitar.
Acoustic or...
Do you know what? Yeah, I think acoustic. Yeah, I think I would
just
prefer
sitting there playing your country songs.
Yeah. Violin, which is random, but I think the violin's pretty cool.
Very difficult.
Just throwing that out there. Yeah, I think
so if anyone wants to buy Dan a violin...
yeah, I think we should move on before my weird musical instruments of choice. Right. So, no, do you know what? It's really random going back to it because because firstly, you've always got the history of like string instruments being used on rap and hip hop, things like that, in genres that it wouldn't classically be linked to. But I went to see, a couple of years ago, I went to see a show at the O2. And one of the guests, I can't remember her name now, was this lady who, she sang The Police's Roxanne.
Mm-hmm.
But she had a violin, but she was also then using it not just as say a violin, but she was tapping it like a drum, like a bongo. She was doing all sorts of things with it other than just playing the strings on it, and it was just so.
You get a lot of that in like acoustic guitar, don't you, where they're playing it and they're just tapping along at the same time. It is wild to me because it's like you're effectively playing 2 different instruments there, and I struggle, and they're usually singing at the same time. It's like, I'm struggling to keep up with one of what you're doing, never mind all 3.
I can hit a guitar, though. I think I could do it.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm really good at that.
If I could do it in rhythm is another thing. Right, so I think we will move on now. So the final course of the evening, dessert, what are we having? And actually, before you say that, are you a dessert person?
If I'm out at a restaurant and everyone else is having, yes. I do quite like my sweet stuff, but... it depends entirely on the meal, because sometimes you'll have a meal and you finish it and you go, oh, I'm a bit full. I don't think I'll do a dessert. I'll have Irish coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
But it all depends on how much I've had beforehand. Because I know they say you've got a second stomach for dessert, but that only goes so far.
Yeah. So what are you serving up?
My favourite dessert, apple crumble.
Classic, yeah.
Love
Custard?
an apple crumble. Custard or like a really good vanilla ice cream, either way.
Oof, yeah.
But it's got to be a good vanilla. You can't be getting that £1 from Aldi tub of fake vanilla ice cream. You need the proper stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's always been a favourite of mine and probably always will be. And I think if it's done right, it can be a just astounding. With a nice mint tea to help it go down.
Mint tea.
Yeah, no alcohol this time.
Oh, look at that. That's quite refined dessert, that is, isn't it?
Not when you've seen me eat an apple crumble, it isn't.
Yeah, crumble is just great, isn't it? Yeah, we went through a period of making it, and there's just something about crumble. I think because I'm not, and in this house, we're not usually sweet tooth. We don't generally like, if I go out, I won't have a dessert.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something about crumble with the sugar and the sweetness is just moreish, isn't it?
Better than an apple pie.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, an apple pie is nice enough, but an apple crumble is up there.
So you're not one for like your chocolate cakes and things like that?
I feel like chocolate cake is very... When you go to a restaurant or you get it from a takeaway or what have you, it's always the same sort of chocolate fudge cake, and it's a bit generic and a bit bland tasting.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you go to a high-end restaurant, if you can afford it, the chocolate cake there is probably really nice, but I feel like it's always just a bit sort of boring, a bit boring.
It's like the... trying to compare it to something, it's probably like the digestive of the biscuit world now, isn't it? You'll have it.
It's the safe dessert.
Yeah.
It's for all the picky kids.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and who's walking through the door on this one?
So the last sort of big part of me is animation. I studied animation at university. I don't do it now because, like a lot of the arts, there wasn't the work for it in the UK. If I wanted to get a job in that industry, I'd have, for one, had to learn an entirely different bit of software because my university taught us the not standard software, but told us it was. And I would have to go to somewhere like the US or certain parts of Europe, and you can't do that when you're not established. But I do still enjoy it. I keep trying to get back into it, but it's very difficult to get back into. So an animator from, I say many years ago, he's still active now, but I found him originally on Newgrounds, if you remember Newgrounds.
Oh, wow, yes, yeah.
Yeah, that Egoraptor, Aaron Hansen. So he is, like I say, he was originally Egoraptor. You might not have seen them, but the Metal Gear Awesome series. Not
sure.
Yeah, it's going a fair old bit back. I think that was like 2009 or something mental like that. But he's still active. I think he still does some animation, but he's part of Game Grumps. He's like one of the two hosts on there. He's a singer. He does a lot of YouTube, like Let's Plays and stuff like that with Dan Avidan, who's a proper musician and really good. But yeah, I think he's very, very high energy, very. He likes to talk, and he's always got stories to tell. And I think if you're having guests around for a dinner party, you want people who've got stories or people who can make you laugh. And I think he's right up there for that. This was originally going to be a podcaster that I was going to put there, but I changed my mind at the last minute.
All right, have an honorary mention. Who would that have been?
Have you heard the... Oh, God, why is it escaping my brain now? Stuff You Should Know podcast.
Oh, do you know what? I have, but I haven't listened to it for a long time.
My original thought was having both of them on Josh and Chuck because the amount of things they know, because I don't know if you've looked at the catalogue of things they talk about, but they do everything. So, like, one week they do an episode on voodoo magic, and then the next episode is something to do with rocket science, and it's just crazy the amount of information they must hold in their heads.
And that's the beauty of doing podcasts as well, isn't it? It's forcing you to, you're doing it voluntarily, obviously, but it's forcing you to look at things constantly and taking a whole set of information every episode. But okay, so this guy, you said, so obviously in the animation world, so is that something then, does that link in then, because you seem like you've got quite a creative mind then, because you've got the whole D&D side of things, creating campaigns, etc. The whole music you said is very important, and now the animations. So it feels like it's all carefully woven into this creative element of you.
I think the problem for me is I want to be creative, but I don't necessarily have the skill sets. So I tend to sort of gravitate towards people that do have those, almost like a sort of living vicariously through them kind of thing. Even when I was doing animation, I was doing very technical things in animation. I wasn't doing like freehand or cell shading and stuff like that. I was doing primarily motion capture data. So the Lycra suits with the reflective balls and looking at what was effectively 17 different graphs overlining each other, and the sort of the more technical side of it all, which was basically just maths with a bit of art on top of it. But yeah, so like I said, they're not necessarily things that I have the skill set for. So if I can enjoy it through someone else, that'll keep me happy.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've got a creative mind, but I can't draw. I really struggle. So that's why I've got some really good help from the movie Wire, and even Chatsunami's done a couple of covers for me for my episodes. I really want to play a musical instrument because I've got ideas for sometimes songs and that, but I can't do that either, other than briefly on the ukulele. So yeah, I get what you mean. It's about having that outlet.
Yeah, I think everyone needs some kind of creative outlet, even if that is just, vicariously through listening to your favorite musicians or something like that.
Okay, well, for me, it's definitely a winning menu. I've loved every course. Great set of guests. So, do you think they'd all get on together?
I would like to think so. I don't know if maybe the last guest, Aaron, I don't know if maybe he'd be a bit too high energy for the other two, but I think it'd be fine. In my head, it'd be fine.
Now, I said to you just before recording that I forgot to tell you that there's always some random questions at the end, but you're going to be fine. So I'm just going to chuck them anyway. So the first couple are fairly standard. So we've had our meal. I've claimed the best seat in front of the TV. You're going to put that one film on to say, to get to know you a little bit better. This is a film we're watching. What is that film?
God, I have primarily two types of films I like. I like disaster end of the world films.
Yeah.
And I like animated films. I think I'm going to go for a disaster film, and I think we're watching the original Twister.
Oh, okay, yeah, because the sequel's coming out soon, isn't it?
It is, and apparently it's not doing too bad. Apparently it's reviewing quite well.
I know I've seen the original, but I'm struggling to remember it. But
they're chasing a tornado with they're wanting to, because this is before, so I think the premise is it's before tornadoes are really fully or understood to the point we understand them today, and they're basically chasing this tornado to track where it's going to be going, and they've got this big metal canister on the back of one of these trucks that's full of like hundreds of these little tracking ball things, and the idea is they're trying to put it up into the Twister so that they can monitor how it works.
Yeah.
And obviously it's wrought with problems and accidents, and at one point they drop the canister and all the little beads fall out, and it's a great film. We love disaster films.
Yeah, my wife loves a disaster film as well, and for a while the film that was always on in our house was The Day After Tomorrow. That felt
great
like
film. That was going to be my second choice. Great film.
The funny thing was, I remember at the time a mate of mine said, did I want to go see it at the cinema? And I said, yeah. So I invited her and she said, no, she didn't really want to go see it. She thought, or she didn't think she'd like it. So I got home and I told her all about it. Then the minute it came out on DVD at the time, yep, you've mentioned CDs, we're going to go for DVDs.
Yep.
That was it. And it was just always in the player. And like you said, it's just a great film, isn't it?
The thing with disaster films is if you focus entirely on the particular disaster that's happening and nothing else around it, that's going to be a pretty boring film. But you, like with The Day After Tomorrow and Twister, you're learning about how it's affecting people in Day After Tomorrow's situation. At least you're learning about how it's affecting people at different points of the world. Because I think Jake Gyllenhaal's is he in New York for that contest or something? But then you've got his dad's on the other side of the country, and you've got the guys up in the Highlands of Scotland.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think they try to get the Queen out, and the helicopter crashes.
Yeah, and aren't they
great.
drinking tea when they go? I think, isn't it? Or-
Whiskey, I think.
Oh, is it
Don't they pull out
whiskey?
a bottle? I think they pull out. They're drinking tea at the time, but
That's
then
right. Yeah,
the last hurrah is like they pull out an old 12-year-old bottle of scotch.
all very civil.
It's just they're thinking that's the way to go. That's the way to do it.
Okay, so music. Well, you've given some away, I guess. But what soundtrack or music are we going to have playing through the meal?
For a dinner party, you don't want anything too in your face. You want a bit of background music.
Mhm.
So I think I'm going to go with lo-fi, which is sort of, for anyone that doesn't know, it's very relaxed, chill sort of. It kind of teeters into hip hop and it kind of teeters into jazz a little bit, but it's very, the term is low fidelity, but it's very calm, very low tempo music. And it's great.
It makes sense. Makes sense to have that. Yeah, like you said, nothing that's too in your face. Okay, so the next couple of questions I throw at you now, because you are part of the Game Club pod, they're going to have to be video game related now. So the first one, well, I was going to say easier one, but it's like pick your favourite record. What game are we going to be playing after dinner?
You want a group game, really.
Elden Ring.
If we wanted to have an all-nighter, I would love to play D&D. But striking that, Jackbox Party Pack's usually a pretty good shout for that kind of stuff. Or the classic Mario Party, Mario Kart. Something to get people kind of competitive against each other a little bit and having a good time. I feel like I've never had a time playing those kind of games where I've not had a good time.
Okay.
I think it would round it off nicely. Bit of healthy competition.
Okay. Really random one, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
You had to invite 3 guests, but they're all video game characters. Which 3 are they going to be?
Oh, I'm gonna have to start looking at my Steam library for Master Chief. I think that'd be fun. But that's purely because that was like the game that got me into gaming.
Okay.
I do wish my Steam would load quicker to help me with this.
You'd have to have some quite strong furniture with him around there and his gear.
Ask him not to come in the armor; it'll be fine. Actually, no, it'd be weird having Master Chief not in the armor. I think.
Yeah.
Let's go Baldur's Gate. Let's get Astarion in there, just because of the sass. I've got a lot of people on my Steam that play that game.
If you'd have played Mass Effect now, I'm sure one of those characters would be.
Yeah. I'm sure if I played Mass Effect. Let's also bring in one of the Cher Gorath from Skyrim. Not Skyrim. Oblivion.
Oblivion. Yes.
I think
Shivering Isles. Yeah.
I think that would be an immense guest to have because I think he'd just be mental.
Oh yeah, he was from the Shivering Isles expansion pack, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, and I think he showed up a little bit in the base game because he's a Daedric prince, isn't he? I think it might have just been by name, but he shows up every so often.
I'd keep him off the margaritas and the.
Yeah, maybe keep him away from the alcohol and maybe have Chief on standby just in case.
Yeah. Okay, I've got one more question. And only if you think you've got an answer for it, but I can't remember. I gave it might have been to Tim and Joey, I think. But is there food from a video game or video game series that you would want to try or have?
Monster Hunter food. I don't know if you've seen the food in Monster Hunter.
No, but I think Tim possibly said the same when he said it just looks amazing.
Good Lord, they play part of Monster Hunter is you eat a meal before you go out on your hunt, and it gives you certain benefits and stat boosts and what have you. They always play a little cutscene of the food being prepared and served to you, and it just looks like it's way too much food, but it looks damn good. I would eat all of it twice.
See, Monster Hunter are another set of games where I know I'm not going to play them because I don't think I'm going to be any good at them, but I now want to play them just to see the food.
I didn't think I'd be good at it when I started it, but it was actually Jacker of Anime Corner fame. I think he bought me a copy and he was like, play this. It's like, oh, okay. And now I've got something like 500 hours in it.
See, the problem with me is these games where you have to be patient and do all the prepping and stuff, that's just not me, I don't think. Like, do you know the Leroy Jenkins meme? Have you seen that video?
I was a big WoW player back in the day. I'm acutely aware of it.
I'd be the Leroy Jenkins of the group. I just don't have the patience. Anyway, look, I think that's going to be the final question I throw at you. I hope you enjoyed that.
It was great. It was, obviously, we've done an episode previously, and it's always a good time coming on here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, I've got you lined up. Well, we mentioned there's a Mind Wipe episode. I've not told you yet, and I'm not going to. I've potentially got another episode with Joey lined up, which I might bring you in on. We were talking about it the other day. So when that's finalised, I'll let you know.
Absolutely.
It's probably a little unfair because you kind of officially just joined them, but normally I say to people, do they want to plug the podcast? So I don't know, have you got the Game Club sales pitch down yet?
Join us on Game Club Pod, where every 2 weeks we review video games, much like a book club. That's the phrase. Book. Tim's got it down to like an art form. I can't even remember the name of the sodding podcast, but yeah, find me on there. Starting, I don't know when our first episode is that I'm on.
Some point after this.
Some point after this one, yeah. We've recorded it. I'm under the impression that it's been edited, but I could not tell you for the life of me when it's coming out. With
those guys, how organised they are, it could be 2026. I mean,
it is apparently the 29th of this month.
Oh, there you go.
So a couple of days after this.
If I remember rightly, this is going out the 28th. So yeah, so check it out tomorrow.
Possibly.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're not listening to Game Club Pod, please do. I love it. It's one of my favourite podcasts. And yeah, then underneath that, you've got the two blokes from Blighty, and it's Anime Corner, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Slade's got Anime Corner and Between Two Pods, which my understanding is you've been on there 3 times now, 2 times?
Twice. I want the third. I want to be the first to be the 3-timer on that. So, but no, look, thank you very much for coming on. Great news that you're going to be part of the Game Club Pod. Anything else you want to say before we go?
I'm going to steal your thunder again. If you haven't already, check out the PodPack Collective on Twitter. That place is at fault for a lot of the collaborations you're probably hearing now. It's their fault I know of Dan. It's their fault I know of everything else going on.
It's hi to all of them. And catch me next week for another episode. If I've got everything aligned, it should be another Pilot Views episode next week with Justin. So I'll see you then.
Bye.
1, 2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, take what we've got, 'cause we need it. Don't make us get a spark and force feed.